Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Palm Jr.
Woo!
Thank you for that kind introduction, Joanne. I appreciate it. And before I say anything else, I just want to thank Martha Ringler. Where are you? Mrs. Ringler, thank you for putting this together. Thank you for coming up with the idea and for making sure that we veterans.
She's right behind.
Oh, hi, thanks a lot. Mr. Donat, yeah, I knew I was going to screw that name up. Donnelly, Principal Regan, Coach Bailey, members of the school board that are here, faculty, staff, students, and my brother and sister veterans, good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, seriously? Good morning. Good morning. Much better. Now you're catching on. In the days before the United States entered the First World War, a group of American college kids anxious for adventure and the opportunity to participate in aerial combat volunteered for service in France. And as this squadron got closer and closer to their graduation, one of the members of that class had a coin struck to commemorate the squadron, the La Enfant Aero Squadron. That tradition, over 100 years ago, continues today in the United States military. It's called the challenge coin. Every commanding officer and every senior enlisted advisor to that commanding officer, when they assume the duties, have a coin struck. And they always walk around with 2 or 3 of those coins in their pocket to present to soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who have given some extraordinary measure of service or sacrifice. Maybe it's not medal worthy, but it certainly is worthy of more than just a pat on the back and a well done. And so what will happen is the CO or the Command Master Chief will reach into his pocket. He'll pull out one of those coins and he'll palm it in his hand. And he'll walk up to the individual and he'll say something like this: Coach, thanks for everything you did for me 45 years ago. You changed my life. God bless you. That's called being coin. That's Mr. Fred Yannity. Coach Yannity was my football coach and my social studies teacher. There's somebody else who needs to be coined today. Where's Eric Wagner? Wagman!
Hi, Daddy.
Get out of here! Give me the house lights! Give me the house lights! Wagman, Wagner! Every lineman, every tackle, guard, and center on the planet envies this young man. If you haven't seen it, go online, GTS, Google that stuff, and see him run a touchdown for last Friday's game. But that's not why you're getting this coin, young man. It's for the enthusiasm, the hoo-yah that you have shown all season long. According to Coach Feitel, you are one hoo-yah guy. Keep it up. Get off my stage! I wasn't a great student. I should not have graduated. If I were in high school today, my GPA was so low in 1975 that I wouldn't be allowed to graduate. My teachers, not Coach Yannity, but some of my teachers wrote on my report card, he was not performing to his full potential. Anybody here ever heard that? That really marked who I was. And so when I enlisted in the Navy in 1975, I had a dream. From the earliest days of my memory, there was a television show on in the 60s. It was black and white, called Sea Hunt. And my sister Karen and I would sit and watch that show every week. It was a stupid show. It was a really stupid premise. But the star, Lloyd Bridges, was a former Navy frogman. And so for me, the thought of being an underwater scuba diver, to go to work every day and strap on a set of scuba jugs was like the epitome of cool. And that's what I wanted to be. Unfortunately, I failed to get a high enough grade on the ASVAB test to qualify for that diving school. So I got to sit down. It's my back. Excuse me. Too many scuba cylinders. So when I joined the Navy, I couldn't get a guarantee to the school, and but I got into the Navy, and my recruiter said, just work hard, and you'll be able to increase your score so you can qualify one day. And it took me 10 years, but in 1985, I passed the ASVAB test with a high enough score to finally get into dive school, and I failed in the third week. I failed the same test twice. It was pretty embarrassing. The truth is, it was a lot. Dive school was brutally difficult physically, but it was the academics that tripped me up. And I was ill prepared, not because Richland didn't do a good job, but because I just wasn't a great student. But I went back to the fleet in 1985, and I thought that I had done my best. Nobody could ever fault me for at least not trying. And about a year later, I saw a television documentary about the life of Carl Brashear, the first black man to be accepted into Navy dive school and graduate. He suffered so much discrimination in his effort to get into dive school that he had to submit his application 100 times. He finally made diver, and 12 years later, lost his left leg below the knee in a diving-related accident. The Navy was processing him for discharge, and he was going to get 100% disability, all of his bills paid for the rest of his life. And this guy refused to accept it. He fought the Navy for 2 years because his dream was to become the first black Master Chief Master Diver in the history of the Navy. It took him 2 years, but he was finally able to be awarded his return to active duty as a fully qualified deep sea diver. He was an incredible man. And I had the pleasure of meeting him and getting to know him and become a friend of his. Master Diver Brashear was an extraordinary inspiration. And when I saw that documentary in 1986, I thought, oh my gosh, if this guy could overcome all that and lose a leg, I got no excuse for not going back. So I resubmitted my application. I was accepted. I went back to dive school. But in the 2 years between 85 failure and 87 second try, I did everything I could think of to be prepared, to be better prepared for dive school. I got an algebra tutor. I hated algebra. I'm sure my algebra teacher is rolling over in her grave, whoever she was, because I was just so bad. I got straight Fs. I really did. 6 grading periods, straight Fs. It's embarrassing, but it's the truth. So I took these courses, I did whatever I could, I worked out, and when I got back into dive school in 1987, I was a rock star. I was more physically fit at 30 years of age than I had ever been in my life. And I was smarter, and I was faster. And by the end of the 4th week, I'd only gotten to the 3rd week in 85. By the end of the 4th week, I was number 2 in my class academically. From failure to class salutatorian. And then we hit the 5th week of dive school, which is scuba harassment. There's no way to prepare for that. It's a week-long exercise designed to teach you how not to panic underwater if you are involved in an emergency situation. The instructors come down from the surface and literally beat you up. If you want to see it, GTS, Google that stuff, and you'll find it online. Just Google Navy Deep Sea Diver Scuba Training. It's scary. It was terrifying. I didn't even get through the first day. I panicked underwater twice. Went to the surface both times. And at the second time, the instructors pulled me out and said, "Palm, hit the showers, you're done." After everything I'd been through, I failed again. The next day, I was sitting in front of the academic review board. The command master chief, the command master diver, and the training officer are all sitting at a table. They call me into this room. I'm standing at attention, and I go to sit down in a chair, and the master diver says, "Don't bother, Palm. You're not going to be here that long." I was just devastated. I'd come back close. And he said, "Palm, you're 30, almost 31 years of age. You've been up for chief petty officer 3 times. You're older than everybody else in this schoolhouse by at least 8, 10 years. What are you doing here?" And I said, "Master diver, ever since the first time I saw Lloyd Bridges crawl out of the water in the old TV series Sea Hunt, I have wanted to be a Navy deep sea diver. And be advised, no matter what you do to me today, I'm going to be beating at that door until I finally graduate." And he looked at me and he kind of shook his head. He goes, "Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that." And he goes, "All right, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I've got another class forming up in 30 days. If you're willing to start all over again from scratch, from day one, we'll give you an unprecedented 3rd try. You've got 30 days to learn how not to panic underwater." They don't write courses for doing that. But I found a way. And in September 1987, I graduated from Navy Deep Sea Diving School as a Navy diver 2nd class. And I wear that pin today, and it's, except for the Chief Petty Officer rank, it's the thing I am the most proud of. I tell you that story, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students of Richland High, ram power. Because I know unequivocally and with certitude that you will suffer failure at some point in your lives. You will suffer failure, and it'll be debilitating, it'll be crushing, it'll be hurtful. Whether you fail at some academic endeavor, or whether you fail at work, or whether you fail in a personal relationship, you're going to fail. And you may fail often. And while failure may describe you, it need not define you. It's how you react to failure that makes all the difference in the world. So, what I'm going to leave you with here today is a poem written by William Ernest Henley in 1865 called Invictus. And in that poem, he was expressing his willingness to do whatever it took to survive. Because, ironically, Henley had lost his left leg below the knee. And I think it is extraordinarily appropriate when folded into the story of Carl Brashear. Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit, from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied, but unbound. From this place of wrath and tears lies but the horror of the shade. And yet, the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.